Okay, start now ya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Fellow teacher, please welcome. Welcome and thank you for joining this teacher talks on April edition. This teacher talks was supported by My English Club, a non-profit social movement dedicated to English language teachers in general and volunteer teachers in particular, and also providing discussion forums and workshops. And the other host institution is Bangun Tunas Cerdas Indonesia Foundation. It is an Indonesian foundation concerning education and sustainable development goals in general. Fellow teachers, this teachers talk is Teachers of the World. Is a discussion forum between English language teaching teachers in Indonesia and worldwide, and is aimed to promoting peer discussion, reflective practice, and recently intercultural awareness. It's also held once a month and is open for everyone around the world. You can watch the record from the last year in a certain link, okay? And our facilitators are first, Leviana Finanda, a founder of My English Club, and is also she also is English language teachers, mainly works with adolescent learners, and she also a postgraduate teacher postgraduate students in English language teaching in UK. And the main interest is English language teaching includes the global use of English and intercultural awareness in English language teaching. The other facilitator is Richard Buckley, is a guidance counselor at University of Wales Trinity, St. David, UK, and is a master education leadership and and management with Open University. He's also taught English with the British Council and in university level. Hot Cambridge Delta, and his current project is Bilingual English Wales project on material health. Okay, welcome to our facilitator, Leviana. Levi, time is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Sukma, for the kind introductions. Hello, teachers. Welcome to Teachers Talk. Yeah, my name is Levi, and together with Richard, we are your facilitator for today. And our topic today is what's next, new directions for English language teacher. Now, in this topic, we are going to discuss two major areas. The first one is that, this topic are recently explored or re-explored, yeah, in order to make language learning as an enriching experience for our students. Now, the area that we are going to discuss today are, the first one is integrating literature in ELT and also regarding digital literacy. Now, to help us ignite the discussions, yeah, because in Teachers Talk, we have the presentations, and after that, that will be followed by the discussions, yeah. And the first presenter that will help us to ignite the discussions is the one that I will be gladly introduce for you. And he is Walid Abdallah Rezk. Hello, Walid. How is it going?
Hello, good morning. Everything is going well here.
Yes.
And it is almost 8 a.m. in Egypt.
Quite early for you, yeah? Quite early. Okay. Thank you for being here with us. Now, Walid held a PhD in English language and literature. He's an associate professor of English language and literature in Swiss University in Egypt. Yeah, he has a lengthy experience, 15 years of experience in teaching English language and literature, not only in Egypt, yeah, but also in Saudi Arabia, in Germany, and also in the USA. Wow, that's fantastic. And he also an international author and poet. Yeah, you would love his poet because I have read some of them, and that was really beautiful. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Now, we usually have two presenters to introduce you to the topic, and we should have another one, which is Shamim, a teacher from Malaysia. But unfortunately, she isn't able to join us today because she has a force major. She has her daughter and her mother have COVID, so the situation is quite tough for her. So she isn't able to join us today. But not to worry, because the discussions will be keep going. So instead, I am going to launch a survey for everyone where we to ignite the discussions. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is the rundown for today. So the first one, we are here in the opening and introductions. Yeah. And it will be followed by the presentation by Walid. Yeah. And then after that, the presentation will be about the literature, and after that we will have a quick survey on a digital literacy. Yeah, and after that we will have a discussion. Yeah, so you are welcome to share your questions, your feedback, or whether you want to share your own experience, yeah, regarding integrating literature or the digital literacy in your own classroom. Yeah. And after that, we will have a learning point, which is basically to sum up and wrap the discussions. Yeah, that will be delivered by Richard. And finally, we'll have the closing. Yeah. So I would go quickly on this. This is the code of conduct. Yeah, in this meeting. So please, whenever possible, use your real name in the display name so we can call you appropriately. Yeah, and please remain mute throughout the sessions. And everyone is welcome to participate during the discussion time, questions or feedback, and you can deliver it live or over the chat tab. Yeah, and you can do it in English, which is we recommend it, but for Indonesian teacher, if you can't do it in English, then you can use Bahasa instead. Yeah, and we can translate it for you. Now, if you wish to join the discussion live, please click on the raise hand button. You will find it below. Yeah, then we will allow you to give your feedback during the question and answer sessions. Yeah. Now, the other thing is, whenever possible, please turn your video on. And finally, I would like to let you know that this session is recorded, yeah, and you will find the recording later in our YouTube channel. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we will start the presentations and also the discussions under the topic where next. Yeah, new directions for English language teachers. Okay, now I would share the presentations for Walid. Yeah, I'm going to start here. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Walid, time is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It is very kind invitation from Lily to be with you today, and it's my own pleasure and honor to meet you here. Today, our topic is going to be about different approaches of teaching English literature. So I am going to focus on the 6 main approaches of teaching literature, and teaching literature helps a lot to enhance English language learners. Okay, you can move to the third slide. Yes, these are the different approaches to teaching English literature. The first one is called language-based approach. And this one is widely used with English learners of English as a foreign or a second language. The second one is called Paraphrastic Approach. And we are going to discuss each one after this slide. The third one is called information-based approach. The fourth is personal response approach. The fifth is moral philosophical approach. And the last one is stylistic approach. So we are going to discuss them in details. Okay. Okay, Levi. Move to the next one. This one is called language-based approach. And in this approach, the teacher concentrates on helping students gain more vocabulary in English language. So in this approach that allows students in a systematic and methodical way in order to exemplify specific linguistic features. So the teacher is going to ask his students, for example, to pick out all the nouns in the text, or the verbs, or the adjectives, or the adverbs, and how can he find them easily. Use literary text for helping students to improve their language proficiency by exposing them to the target language and connect them to specific vocabulary. So the teacher is going to pick some vocabulary and ask them first to define them or give other meaning for the same word. So the concentration here is to gain more vocabulary that will help them speak English fluently in the future and help them understand any literary text. So the concentration is about specific vocabulary and other aspects of language, which include the structure of the sentence, and this helps students be more fluent in English language afterwards. This is the first one. That's why it is called language-based approach, because it is mainly about how to gain more vocabulary. The second one, Levi. The second one is called Barathristic Approach. And in fact, I used this several times in my classroom. This helps students to be more creative because you can ask your student to paraphrase the text he is reading. That's why he is going to use another words or other words to express his own ideas by using a simpler way. Paraphrastic approach, according to Howing and Imby, deals with the surface of the text. It refers to paraphrasing or retelling the text in a simpler version. So I can ask my students to write it using their own words. The purpose of this approach is to ease students' understanding apart from translating it into another language. It has two goals. First one is to help students to understand better because sometimes using literature is a bit difficult because the language of literature may use some kinds of figures of speech, which might be difficult for the students. So when you ask your student to try to write it back in their own language or write what they understood, that will help them a lot in gaining and understanding English better and so on. The third one, Levi. It is information-based approach. And this one is rarely used at schools. It is mostly used in university, where students study literature or different genres of literature like novels, drama, and this is called the teacher-centered approach because most of the information is based on the teacher. In order to give the student a piece of writing, in order to read it, he should give them more information about the literary text, like its historical, political, cultural, and social background of the literary movement and the writer himself. So this one is rarely used at primary or middle or secondary education. It's mostly used in university level for students who have more information about English literature. Like for example, if you are teaching students a course in novel, for example, like the novel of Charles Dickens, Oliver Twist, for example. So I need to introduce them about the life of Charles Dickens and which period of time did he live there and the social circumstances that surround him in order to write such a novel before discussing the novel itself with the students. So it needs much more information from the teacher side before presenting this kind of note. So it is mostly used in university level. Okay, level. The next one. It is called the personal response approach. And this one, readers can relate to a text. When I ask a student, for example, and I used it while I was teaching Great Expectation of Charles Dickens in the United States with my partner teachers there, it was taught for the 12th grade in high school. So I asked the students to make themselves instead of the hero, what they are going to do next. This strategy or this approach helps them to be more creative and innovative because they are going to think instead of the writer of the novel himself. They can relate to a text to reflect on their own reading process and to make sense of the reading in their own lives. They are going to tie it to certain circumstances in their own life. A novel or poem or play remains only ink puts on paper until a reader transforms it into a set of meaningful symbols. The reader must try to relate it to some certain incidents or his personal experience. I am going to ask the student at my classroom, what if you are in the place of the hero of the novel, for example, or the play? What is your next step? What is going to move you? What motivation you have, and so on. The next one, Levy. It is called the moral or philosophical approach. In order to introduce literature for students, literature in the very beginning was intended to give a lesson or teach a moral to the students. So when I present some kind of writing, I must have in my mind and ask myself what morals they are going to learn. This approach is defined as an approach that suggests that the larger purpose of literature is to teach morality. So there should be a moral or a lesson the students must learn at the end of this class. And to probe philosophical questions, in the words of Samuel Johnson, it is believed that authors intend to instruct the audience in some way. So no man of letter is going to write a piece of writing without having some moral to teach the students or the readers in general. So in order to present some kind of this approach to my students, I must present them with a good moral. And I remember in my middle school, while I was just a student, the teacher presented us the story of a young boy who was looking after the sheep of his father in the mountains. And it is a simple one, but it has a good moral. The students felt bored because of looking after the sheep every day in the mountains and nothing happens. He felt really bored. So he thought of something to make his job more exciting. So he decided to scream and go out to the village, saying that the wolf is attacking my sheep. And everybody moved and hurried towards the sheep in order to save them from the first wolf. And when they went up the mountains, he said, ha ha ha, I laughed about you. There is nothing. I deceived you. The next day, he did the same thing. And on the third day, when he did this, nobody went up to help him. So the wolf was really there and attacked and killed most of all his sheep. And the moral of this simple story was to teach us at that time never to tell lie, because if you lie to people once, they are not going to believe in you again. Although it was very simple, but I still remember it. So if I present my students with a simple story with a moral, I am going to remember it all my life. The next one, Levy. Stylistic approach. You know, literature uses a different way of expressing ideas. They don't present vocabulary or give a vocabulary one meaning. It might have more than one meaning. And especially when I use idioms, I can use in the literary book saying, proverbs. These can't be understood directly. They need some kind of explanation. And in order to make our students more cultured, more innovative, we should teach them some kinds of these idioms. The stylistic approach teaches students how to look for and interpret stylistic dimensions of the text. They must understand what is beyond the text itself. Students are made to learn how what is said and how meanings are made. How can he express anger through writing? How he can express happiness through writing? They are taught to know what makes the language of literature different from everyday language. Like, I might teach them when you succeed, for example, don't just say, I am happy. You can say, I am over the moon. I am on cloud 9. So when you use a sentence like this or a saying like this, you express your own feeling using another kind of language, which is barely used in our everyday life. So it helps them a lot to gain more knowledge about the culture and the culture of the target language of English. And these are the most famous 6 approaches they use in English class. Myself, I used the first one, which is the language-based approach. And I used the paraphrastic approach and the moral philosophical approach very much. And they can be used at primary stage or middle stage or at any stage to teach your students English in a better way. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you very much, Walid. That was really inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so as we have heard from Walid, that there are lots of approaches that you can attempt in your own classroom. Walid has introduced us to some of the principles of each of the approach. Yeah, so it's just a matter of which one do you want to really attempt in your own classroom. Now, in the discussion later, yeah, we might be able to really discuss if you ever really attempt a literature approach in your classroom. What have you done? Yeah, what did you do, or what do you plan to do perhaps, yeah, to really use a literature in your classroom, in your own context, of course. I personally really interested with the personal response approach. I think that will be interesting to let the learners, you know, to make their own versions from the existing story, and we let them, for example, decide the endings perhaps, or make the other versions of the story after we introduce it to them. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Walid. Okay, now we usually have the second speakers, yeah, to deliver the presentations, the second presentations, but because we don't have her at this moment, what I would like to do is that launch a survey, a poll, yeah, and this poll is regarding the second area of discussion today, yeah. So the first one, we have heard how we can integrate literature in our ELT classroom, and the second one is digital literacy, something that might be really relevant for us these days, yeah, especially during the pandemic, yeah. So you will see a poll in a moment. Okay, so there are I think 5 questions. Yes, 5. So the first one is, how do you feel about integrating digital literacy in your classroom? Yeah, you can decide whether it's relevant or whether you are unsure. Yeah. The second question is, if you think that integrating digital literacy is relevant or irrelevant, please explain your answer. Yeah. Why do you think it's relevant or not, or whether you are not sure? Okay. And not to worry, because this poll is anonymous, so you can say whatever you want to say there. And the third one is, how do you define digital literacy in your teaching practice? There are some options you can choose. Yeah, that's number 3. Yeah, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. But if you have other ideas, then you can click on others. You can choose more than one. Yeah, for that one. And do you have any other ways to integrate the use of technology besides those options on number 3? Yeah. And then, what kind of digital platform and resources that you use in your teaching context? Yeah, that will be something that, you know, perhaps Canva or Kahoot quizzes, Google Drive, whatever it is. Yeah, so please take time to answer the survey. That will be to help us with the discussion later. Okay. All right. So far for number 1, how do you feel about integrating digital literacy in your classroom? 100% say it is relevant. Okay. Well, I think so too. Yeah, but I mean, for those who join the talk on February with Olaf, a fellow teacher from Mexico, you might remember that Olaf mentions digital learning is not for everyone. That's what he thought. Yeah. Some contexts may not need digitalizations for some reasons. Maybe it is not accessible for them. Yeah, because maybe the classroom is really remote, there's no access to technology or internet, and so on. So yeah, there is always an exclusions for digitalizations in learning, in language learning. Okay, I will wait a little bit more because not everyone has answered that, not yet. What kind of digital platform and resources? Okay. Yes, please take time.
Sorry, Miss Levy.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, I think I'm facing the same trouble
Oh yeah,
with other participants, so I cannot fill out the poll again because it's closed, so I can just view the results.
oh really? Oh, that's too bad. Okay, I don't know what happened, honestly. Also, that's why not everybody can answer that, yeah. Okay, wait a minute. We'll figure out. Oh, yeah, I'm not sure what happened actually. Thank you. Yeah, just checking. Is the same thing happen to everyone that you cannot continue the poll? You can give me a thumb up if it is yes or thumb down. Okay, there's no problem with Teodoro. Everything is fine in Mexico. Thank you. What time is it for you, Teodoro?
Actually, it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for waking up and joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. I'm enjoying it.
Right. Oh, and happy Easter for those who celebrate, for Teodoro and for everyone else who celebrate Easter. And happy fasting for the rest of us. Yeah. Okay. Okay, anyway, I think I can just jump to the discussions now. Because not everyone can do the poll. Yeah, so it seems like each of us agree that digital literacy is relevant and it's important in your classroom. Can you let me know in which context do you teach? And you can answer on the chat tab. Do you teach young learners, adolescents, adults, business class, university level? And that will help us to understand your answer. It's disappeared. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Okay. Teenager and adults online, okay? Young learners, all right? Okay. Middle school, teenagers, okay. So waiting here. Teen, okay. Mostly business class online, all right. Teenagers, yes, okay. Okay. So we teach in different contexts, yeah, basically starting from young learners to adults, but each of us here seems to agree that it's relevant anyway, yeah, to integrate a digital literacy. Okay, thank you. All contexts, yeah, okay. I think so too, yeah, that's relevant. Okay, now let's move on to the second questions. Why do you think integrating digital literacy is relevant? Because everyone say it's relevant. So why is it? Why do you think it's relevant? Because you cannot continue the survey. If you like, you can leave your comments on the chat tab. Yeah. Why do you think it's relevant? Because you have no choice. Because we have no choice. For me, in the beginning is that I have no choice, because we have to start teaching online during the pandemic. But then I found out that there are lots of benefits from it. According to Miss Siti, it's relevant to all levels, especially in online classes. Ms. Sukma said because it is the digital era. Yeah. Okay. Students can work, collaborate, and put in practice collaboration skills. I definitely agree with Teodoro. One of the definitions for digital literacy is actually collaborations, communications, and collaborations online. Yeah, so this is valid. Exposing more vocab. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Because Google knows everything. So whenever you access Google, then there are unlimited access. Okay. It gives a huge affections in all aspects anyway. Okay, effect in all aspects. Okay. Yes, yes. It gives lots of skills to the learners, yeah, not only in language learning, but they become aware to the use of technology in many aspects. It's effective and efficient, according to Desi. Effective and efficient, especially for those who love learning. Yes, definitely. Like you guys here, yeah. Digitalization help us to connect like this. Oh, this is important. According to Fitriadi, students can learn anywhere. Yeah, one of the benefit, yeah. Miftahul said, oh, according to Siti, it makes easier to evaluate. Wow, this is very interesting, because I personally have an issue with assessment in online context, yeah, in online classroom. But if you like, Miss Siti, you can give us some tips. Yeah, how do you do assessment in online learning? Yeah, you can give a comment if you like. According to Miftahul, it is a skill needed by anyone to live, learn, and work in society where communication and information through digital technology and the internet and social media. Yeah, it's inevitable, isn't it? I mean, it's everywhere in our students' life. So, well, it's a part of them anyway. Yeah. So why don't we just use it for language learning as well? According to Ella, I think it is relevant because today's middle school students grow up in digitalized world. Yes, digital literacy is essential both to facilitate them and also for us to keep up. I definitely agree with you, Ella. In fact, I don't know if you are if you are familiar with the word digital native. Yeah, so there is someone called Pransky. he wrote a journal, and in his journal he mentioned that our learners are digital native. We might not the native, but they are digital natives. Yeah. So according to Ronnie, it enables the class to access wider arrays learning resources. Yes, gives lots of resources. Yes. Okay, thank you so much. Now I shall move on. Okay, how do you define digital literacy? Okay. I'll move on to the very last question here. Now, that will be great to know. What kind of digital platform and resources do you use in teaching? Yeah, so you can share here on the chat tab. Yeah. What kind of platform do you use and how, if you may? Yeah. Google Classroom. Me too. Oh, and by the way, if you'd like to speak up, yeah, and share your opinion live, then you can just click on the raise hand button down there. This is a bit overlap with the question and answer sessions for digital literacy. Google Jamboards, okay. Workspace for educations, okay. Jamboard students collaborate really. I never use Jamboard actually, but many recommend that. Microsoft Teams, very useful, yeah. Anyone else wants to share? Which platform do you use? Padlets, yeah, Padlets. It's like you put lots of what do you call that? Sticky notes, yeah, in the wall. Then you can allow the students to share their opinions on that sticky notes, yeah, and let the others see the others' opinions. So that could be really interesting. Google Slides, Docs, and Sheets can be used for collaborative assignments. Yes, definitely agree. I tried that too. This is really useful, yeah? Oh, okay. Kahoot for daily tests and quizzes. Okay. Okay, so by the way, and Microsoft Office. All right. So as I mentioned before, that the sessions, because of the absence of a presenter for the second sessions, it's a bit overlap with the question and answer sessions. Yeah. So, and also because Walid is going to leave for work in 10 minutes. Yeah. So if you guys have questions regarding the literature, you can ask now while he is here. Yeah. And then after that, and you can also ask questions regarding the digital literacy. Yeah. So that will be answered by everyone here, because we are all teacher anyway. Yeah. Okay. So by the way, Walid, I have a questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would like to know your opinions about how to integrate the literature for young learners. I mean, I understand that some of your approaches that you mentioned to us are, valid or relevant for a certain age group, but the others are not. Now, what do you think about how we can really integrate it to young learners? What do you think?
I think the best way to teach them, especially learners by teaching them using short stories. A
Story.
story which is going to give them a good lesson in their life. Because we as teachers not only teach them language, we also teach them good principles and values that are going to benefit them in their future life. So I can make a short story which uses a simple language and write them to read it, and we can read it. After reading it, I'm going to ask the students, what do we learn from this story? One. If it is about how to be generous, how to avoid lying, how to stick to truth, I'm going to ask him to, for example, to pick out all the nouns in the text, or the verbs, or the adjectives. This is another kind of teaching. I might also ask him to rewrite the short story in his if he can. And I think it is going to benefit them a lot on both sides. In teaching them good language and teaching them good moral and the principle values as well.
Right.
There is another strategy that it might help young learners. It is a strategy called role playing.
Role play.
Yes. I might teach them about wild animals, for example, or animals in the wild. I'm going to ask them to imagine themselves as animals. If you are an animal, which one would you like to be? And what you are going to tell us about your life, about the way you feed, where do you live, what do you don't like. So they are going to be excited because everyone is going to choose his favorite or her favorite animal and is imagining themselves these are the animals. So go out and introduce themselves like, hi, I am the horse. I can run very fast. I don't eat a lot. I work very hard, and things like this. It also encourages them to gain more knowledge about English language in a funny way. The third way that might attract the attention of young learners is to teach them through singing. When I give them a song or a rhyme, short rhyme, and ask them to sing it, they are going to love how to learn, because young learners like the use of music or short stories in the way they are being taught. My opinion, and I use most of them throughout my career.
Wow, yes, that's fantastic. Really practical, actually. Practical tip is something that we can actually apply in the classroom. We use a story, one single story, and then we can expand it with reading comprehensions, and then also to maybe learn grammar as well, as Walid said, parts of speech and everything.
Yes, I was giving them parts of speech, and I asked them after reading the short text, first of all, to find out the moral of the text.
Right.
The second point, I asked them to pick out all the parts of speech and order them. What are the nouns? What are the verbs? What are the adjectives? What are the adverbs? What are the prepositions? The third task was to ask them to write the text again using their own words. And if they fail, they might use their own language, which is Arabic, or any other language. Use your own language to express what you feel. And we are trying to help you to pick out the best translation for the best this word.
Right. That's fantastic. Thank you, Walid. I can see that Ella has a question. Ella, please.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. I have a question regarding the reading material that would be more appropriate to be used in the classroom. Let's say the student's level of English is around intermediate or lower intermediate. do you think it's better to use book or novel that has or that talks about cultures pretty close to students' background, or something new instead? I think that's my question. Thank you.
Very
Thank you
important
for
questions.
yes. I can mix between them because my role as a teacher is to prepare them for the future. I can mix between the two things. I can concentrate on our own culture and add to them the culture of the target language. In order to appreciate that language, they must know something about their culture, about how do they practice their own uh, the regular practice of the day in their own country. Like, for example, I might tell him in this way: when you go back from school and you feel hungry, what are you going to tell your mom in your own language? So he is going to say it in his or her own language. Then I will imagine yourself living in another language, like you live in England or America or any other place that use English language. When you get back from school, how can you are going to tell your mom you are hungry? So he is going to think this one. The other one, I'm going to, if our lesson is about different festivals around the world, I am going to tell him we as Muslims we have two main religious festivals, Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr. In England, they celebrate other kinds of celebration or festivals like Easter, which is tomorrow, which is today maybe, Thanksgiving, for example, Christmas, and things like this. When you meet somebody in the morning of the feast day, you are going to say كل سنة وأنت طيب in Arabic. It means many happy returns in English. So I'm going to mix between our own language and our own culture and the culture of the target language. That would help them to learn better.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
All right, thank you for the questions. I really like the approach of multilingualism in the classroom, yeah, that we can actually make use of our native language, our first language, and also the target language in the sense is English. And also, as Walid said, why don't we use the stories from around the world, yeah, from our own culture and also from around the world, yeah, just to enrich the learners with the experience, with the life, with the reference of the people in other countries, yeah. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Walid.
You're most
Yeah. Is there any other questions? Miftahul, yes, sir, please.
Thank you for the chance. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Walid.
Waalaikumsalam.
Nice. Okay. The question is, how do you implement the second approach? What is the second? Is paraphrasing approach or retelling? Yes. Retelling meaning by using the target language, right? So
yes, I am going to explain it to you again. And I used it. The second one is called Paraphrastic Approach. I am going to ask my own students, but it needs students in maybe secondary education or high school.
Oh, okay.
I am going to ask them to use their own words, and write the text again using their own words. This is the main. So when they use their own language, I am going to find out how far or how many new vocabulary they gain through the previous lessons I gave to them. Don't use the same words, but write your own words to express the same ideas mentioned in the text. This will help them to brainstorm themselves and find the new vocabulary to give the same meaning. And I was teaching Great Expectation in a school called Bethlehem High School in Europe. And I asked the students to write, every student is going to pick only one page of the story. And everybody is going to write it down using their own language. This will help me to know how many new vocabulary they get through our previous lessons. And it also encourages them to be more innovative and creative, because this will prepare them to be writers themselves in the future.
Sorry, Dr. Walid. My question was actually, how do you implement to the lower level student, or let's say young learners, which is a bit limited vocabularies, but they have to build free phrasing? Is it possible?
Yes, they can use it, but you know, young learners want to have a lot of new vocabulary in the target language. I must prepare them first for this. So I am going to get a text, a very simple text, and going to make it in front of them. I will read it aloud to them and explain it. And then I am going to tell them I am going to rewrite the text again using simpler words or vocabulary. The next time I am going to them a task to prepare at home, and we are going to discuss it together the next time to see how far they express. And I am going to tell them that if you fail to find another meaning of certain words, write it in your own language. Until we meet, we can discuss it together. And I will help you to find out the proper meaning of each word that you failed to get another meaning.
So the step you dictate to them to write in their language, and then they tell in target language, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Walid.
You are most welcome.
Assalamualaikum.
Yeah, fantastic. I remember there is an approach that's called the scaffolding, I think. Yeah, so I think that's what Walid mentions about preparing our learners before they start to paraphrase or rewrite the stories. Yes. Yeah,
we must prepare them first for this.
Yes, that's right. So, for example, what I usually do in my own context is that I prepare them with the vocabulary, with the difficult words or phrases that might come up in the story that they are about to read. Yeah, that's what I will do first. And as Walid said, I will use my first language, which is Indonesian. Yeah, for the words that is really, really hard to understand. So it's totally fine to be multilingual in the classroom, yeah, in order to reach the better understanding for the learners.
Yes, you know, according to the strategies of using English language in classroom, you can, experts said, you can use your native language in certain times. What are these? The first of all, while you are explaining grammatical rules, you need to use your own native language sometimes. The other thing, when you are explaining abstract nouns, nouns can't be explained, especially to young learners in the target language. Like for example, if you are teaching students the word dignity, for example, or democracy, or freedom, you will be unable to teach it using the target language. You are allowed here to use your native language. And the third way you need to use your native language when you want to check understanding of your students, to make sure they understood or not. Because I sometimes use it. I am going to tell them a complete sentence in Arabic and ask them to translate it into English. To check, did they use the proper structure? They used the proper tense of the sentence or not? And this helps them a lot.
Right. And also, I think this is where you can use technology. Once again, so for example, if it's difficult to find, if in order to prepare the learners before they read the story or before they paraphrase the story, we can also make use of the technology, for example, to find the pictures related to the words, or we can use the English to English online dictionary to find the definitions of a word. Yeah, so this is where
Yes.
I'm sorry, you were mute. Sorry. I'm sorry, you were mute, Walid.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Modern technology helps the students a lot nowadays because most of them have dictionaries on their cell phone. They can use it to get different meaning and to know the different parts of speech. Because you know English is not very rich in vocabulary, as we might find one word gives several meaning. Like for example, if you are teaching the students the word take in. Take in is a phrasal verb which has several meaning. And all the meaning are different from each other. So it needs a lot of attention in order to understand this word, because it means take in can be used as to give the meaning of absorb or understand or deceive or tighten close. And all these definition or meaning don't relate together. And this is a problem in English language. Using dictionaries or online dictionaries help us to find examples about this and to understand it. And you know what you mentioned about find picture about this, it is another strategy called digital storytelling. You can ask them to find or look for digital storytelling for any novel or poem or anything using Google. It will help them to prepare themselves better for the next class.
That's right. That's why literature and also digital literacy can be a new directions, yeah, for English language teaching.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Walid. Okay. Is there any other? Yes. Sorry.
I have to leave now for work.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Anyway.
You are most welcome.
Yes. Happy fasting, and see you again soon.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye. Take care, Walid.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you from Desi. Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you so much. Yes. So Walid has allowed us to share his presentation. So for anyone who wish to get the presentations, you can just ask. Yeah. Wait, we are not done actually. We are not done at all. If there are still any questions regarding especially the digital literacy, you can ask questions, or you can share how do you use literature and also to raise and or to enrich your learners with the digital literacy. I write it down. I leave comments on the chat that I usually have these resources called Learn English Kids at britishcouncil.com. I'm sorry, this is not .com. It is .org actually. It is really useful. There is a special part which called stories. You will find lots of story there. Yeah, I usually relate it with the topic that we are learning on that day. Yeah, so for example, you talk about sports as a topic, and then I will find a story that is related to sports, maybe the history of marathon perhaps, or the other stuff that is related. And as Walid mentions, from that story, you can develop it to other lessons. You can learn, you can teach grammar, you can teach moral, yeah, you can make your students to practice their communicative skills by making them discuss what the story is about, yeah, or if they can change the ending of the story, yeah, what will happen with the characters, for example. Yeah, so story can be really useful. Okay, if there are no other questions or feedback, I will let Richard to wrap up the discussions. And if you still get anything to share after Richard's share the wrap up, then of course you can still ask the questions or give your feedback. Yeah. So Rich, are you there?
I'm here, yeah. How are you doing?
All right. Yeah, I'm all right. What about you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. It's been a busy morning already. Sorry that I came late, everybody.
That's all right. Okay, Rich, the time is yours.
All right, thank you. And it's good to see everybody. If you're fasting, wishing you Ramadan Kareem. If you're celebrating Easter, wishing you a happy Easter. If you're celebrating Easter, you're probably, unless you're an Indonesian Christian, you're probably in a part of the world where it's very late or very early. If you're fasting in Indonesia, you're probably very tired and it's hot. So I'll try to keep this simple and I'll try not to take too long so that this isn't too stressful for everybody involved. But lovely to see you all. Two very different topics today, but both actually maybe more related than you might expect. Because both teaching literature and teaching digital literacy go to the heart of a key question for us, which is, what is the purpose of teaching? Is the purpose of teaching just to give students a bit of knowledge, like transfer knowledge from my head to the student's head? That model of teaching is outdated, although most parents probably expect that. Or it's another way of looking at teaching, maybe. Are we perhaps preparing students for the world outside of the classroom? So we're not just transferring things to them, we're trying to help them to develop the skills and the values and the core knowledge and the core understanding to be successful outside of the classroom. You've probably heard terms such as global citizen before, I imagine. Very popular term, preparing people who will have the skills and the competences and the ability to work with others in a global interconnected world. Sometimes I find the term global citizen a little bit irritating, if I'm honest. I think sometimes I feel we talk a lot about global citizenship, but actually this feels quite smug, quite bourgeois. But having said that, it's also quite real. We are preparing students for that world. And in that world, they will need digital literacy. I think we can all agree. But they'll also need a strong grounding in their own culture. They'll also need the ability to make moral decisions, the ability to recognize that people from other cultures might be looking at issues from a different perspective. And they need the skills to work with difference, to work with diversity, the skills to understand their own values while respecting other people's values, and to find a path forward. And teaching literature can really, really support with that, because storytelling is so powerful in teaching and developing values. So both digital literacy and literature are very relevant to preparing students for the world outside the classroom. And you'll notice the words literacy and literature are connected. The idea of being literate, when we talk about being literate, usually we're talking about the ability to read and write, but literacy also means more generally the ability to function independently. That's another key concept that you may have heard. You may have heard, of course, of autonomous learner. As well as being global citizens, we want our learners to be autonomous learners. We want them to be able to succeed independently without too much intervention. We start by scaffolding to create a safe environment in the classroom where they can practice those skills and take risks. But the long-term goal is for students to be autonomous, both as learners and in wider society. And in the classroom, maybe what we're giving them is a safe space where they can take risks, get things wrong. The way that, you know, when you're a kid, you fall over in the playground and your mum or dad is there to, you know, cover the graze on your knee and make sure you're okay. Because in life, you're going to fall over quite a lot. So you want the first few to be relatively safe and probably on something soft. In many ways, in a classroom, that's what we're doing. We're providing that safe space to make mistakes so that people can become autonomous. And both digital literacy and literature actually can play an important role in that. Walid went through, sorry, I've got a little bit of a sore throat today. It's not COVID, I promise. I have tested. Walid went through a number of different approaches to teaching literature. Some of these approaches you may feel instinctively are perhaps more suited to university level. Maybe that's because we need to think about why we teach literature. And perhaps there's a difference between teaching language and teaching literature. If you go to school in the UK, we all study a subject called English literature. It's a separate subject from English language. That's because in literature, what are we really studying? What we're really studying are the books that are important to our culture. That's really the purpose of literature class. So actually, it's about training us in being British citizens familiar with our own culture. And I bet in Indonesia, you have a similar thing in school. As part of studying Indonesian as a subject, you're also studying key texts that are relevant to Indonesian citizenship and relevant to what it is to be Indonesian. And that's true probably for everyone here, whatever country or culture you're from. So that's what happens when you teach literature as literature. It's a distinct, discrete subject. But what about teaching literature for the purpose of teaching language? This is slightly different, but still connected, still very much connected. We talked about things like the paraphrastic approach. Actually, paraphrasing itself is a language skill. Paraphrasing is a very important language skill, and it's a language skill that you start building from the beginning. I don't know if everyone is familiar with the CEFR levels, with the different CEFR levels that we use to assess language. The ability to paraphrase confidently is considered a B2 level skill. So even at A1, some students can paraphrase to some degree. To some degree, they might be able to find different words. If I give an example, I've taught young learners before. I said to a young learner once, lemon, what is a lemon? And the student said, yellow fruit. So even at A1, a student can paraphrase to some degree. Do you see what I mean? They have some limited paraphrasing ability. B2 is the level at which someone should be able to paraphrase fairly confidently, you know, with a degree of accuracy. But paraphrasing is a key linguistic skill. Being able to tell a story in your own words is a key linguistic skill, and one that you can practice throughout. Literature is a great avenue to practice paraphrasing skills. Read a story, put the story down, tell the story again in your own words, as much as you can remember. The student will remember some of the original words, but others they'll have to paraphrase. They won't have a choice. because they may not remember certain vocabulary items from it. The second thing with regards to using literature to teach language concerns, I'll type this into the box, intensive versus extensive reading. I've heard these terms before, intensive and extensive reading. Intensive reading, when you read a short passage in order to take all the information from it. Extensive reading, reading something much longer. If I give you a paragraph to read, I might expect you to remember all the details, or the main details at least. If I give you a novel to read, do I expect you to remember the whole novel, word for word? Do I expect you to have memorized it? Well, obviously during Ramadan, I know many people here will be memorizing the Quran, which is a brilliant skill, I have to say. But in many instances, that's not the purpose of literature teaching. Do you see what I mean? That's not really what you're aiming for normally when you're talking about extensive reading. With extensive reading, you're aiming for something different usually, which is reading for pleasure, being able to get the general meaning, accepting that you won't understand every single word, but you're still able to follow the story as a whole. This is a different skill. This is extensive reading. You're not expecting to understand every word. You're expecting to understand the main story. And actually, students who develop good extensive reading skills become very strong at inferring meaning. Are we familiar with this term, inferring? So inferring meaning is when I don't tell you what the word means, you work it out from context. You're able to work it out from context. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, a slang meaning. If I spend all day complaining about my day to you, and then at the end I say, honestly, today it was on top, man. It was on top. It's clear that on top is a slang word. That's clearly negative. You can infer that it's negative. You don't need me to define on top for you to work that out. This is inferring, okay? Now, students who practice extensive reading become strong at inferring meaning, and inferring is a key skill because in reality, it's very likely that there will be words you don't know. Even as native speakers, I come across words I don't know. I'm currently in the process of buying a house. That means I have to write to my lawyer a lot. My lawyer is sending me lots of documents with legal words that I don't understand. I think I'm a native English speaker. I've always thought I was until I started reading legal documents. And now I'm starting to wonder if I actually speak English. There's so many words in there that I just don't understand, but I'm having to use my skills to infer meaning, to work out what the lawyer is trying to tell me. And occasionally I give up and ask the lawyer, sorry, what does subconveyancing mean? Exactly. Or when you say that the drainage is like pointed, I don't understand. Like I'm having to check words like that, but a lot of it is inferring. So even up to native speaker level, you're still inferring meaning of words. You may come across terms you don't know. And literature is a great avenue for developing extensive reading and inferring meaning skills. And the best way to do it, we talked a little bit about choosing texts, about what kind of texts are culturally appropriate, for example. I think the important point is to encourage students to do reading for pleasure. It's about reading for pleasure. This is proven to be the best way to do it. Encourage kids to read things they are interested in. If you give them free choice on this, they will generally, naturally choose the things that interest them. And this will naturally give them the best chance of developing those skills. I'll give you one very specific example here. I remember in Indonesia, this was when I worked in Kelapa Gading, I worked with a student whose spoken English was not particularly good, but his listening was very good. I couldn't work out why. Now I knew this student was into football. This student was watching football matches with the commentary in English and was doing it so regularly that he could actually understand an English football commentary, even spoken at natural native speaker speed, because he was so absorbed in it and got used to it and was doing it so often. But interestingly, this extended into his listening skills in other areas. He developed strong listening skills overall. For example, his ability to recognize connected speech when I was speaking fast was better than his classmates, even though his speaking and his overall English level was weaker. Because he gravitated towards something that he enjoyed, he was able to develop the skills through it. This is really, really key. So I'd strongly encourage you to, whatever level your learners are, encourage them to choose reading that they will be interested in and that they will do. Sometimes learners make the mistake of thinking, I should be able to read Charles Dickens in English by now. That means I must force myself to read this book that I actually don't want to read, but I believe I should be reading. While sometimes that can work, if you have the right level of determination, for most learners that won't work. It needs to be what they're naturally gravitating to. Of course, it's good for them to challenge themselves, but they also have to be ready before they can do that. Otherwise, there's a lot of potential disappointment and perhaps a bit of frustration and maybe a loss of motivation. When it comes to digital literacy on that point, we talked briefly about digital natives. Now, it's really interesting because kids develop digital literacy skills actually automatically because the world that they live in requires them to have them to some degree. They naturally gravitate towards the technology that they want to use, and they have those skills quite strongly because they're doing it quite frequently. To give an example of this, I don't know how many of you guys use TikTok. I don't use TikTok. I tried it once, it really confused me. I didn't get it. Okay, I didn't get TikTok. My nephew, much younger than me, used TikTok for the first time, 2 minutes. Oh yeah, I get this. And instantly knew, okay, yeah, so these memes are for these people. This is how you make a video. This is the kind of humor that works on TikTok. This is the kind of humor that doesn't work on TikTok. My nephew could tell me that within 2 or 3 minutes of using it. Because from that generation, they just instinctively know what the platform is, how it works. They've grown up with it. They are digital natives. So they will naturally gravitate to it. However, and this is where we have to be careful, they might not naturally gravitate towards the platforms that we're using, which means they might still need us to support them in developing skills in, for instance, using Kahoot, or for instance, in using, say, Microsoft or Google word processing or spreadsheets. They might not naturally do that in the same way. They will learn it very quickly, but it just might not attract them in the same way. And that's something that we have to be aware of. So yes, they will have brilliant digital literacy skills compared to us. The younger someone is, the better their digital literacy typically. However, it may not necessarily be the precise things we need for our purpose, and we have to be aware of that. That covers nearly everything that I wanted to mention today. I think I'm just going through my notes quickly. Yeah, that covers basically everything that I wanted to mention today. So otherwise, once again, thank you very much for listening, and happy Easter, Ramadan Kareem. Great to see everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich. Okay, that was the wrap up of the discussions and also the presentations. If there is any questions or any feedback, just one perhaps, then we can do that before we close this meeting. Yeah, if any. All right, I'm just checking through it. Okay. Okay. Yes, I think we're safe here. Oh, Miss Ika. Yes, go ahead, Ika.
Okay, thank you, Miss Leffy. Good afternoon, everyone. Just one last question for Richard or Rich. Yes. How would you help your student to identify the messages or the moral of the story for the reading class? Thank you.
That's actually, no, thank you for your question. That's actually a very interesting question. I think it really, really depends on what I'm teaching and why. I'll give an example of a class I did quite recently. So this was in a university in the UK. I was teaching current affairs. Most people in the class speak English as a second language, but there were 2 in the class who were first language English speakers. For this class, we were actually reading Instagram posts by Lewis Hamilton. Do you know Lewis Hamilton, the racing car driver? So Lewis Hamilton has discovered the environment. He feels the environment is very important. He's also vegan because he doesn't want to see animals harmed. And he posted some Instagram posts about this. For this, I set some questions just about what exactly has Lewis Hamilton said? What evidence has he provided? This is what I was trying to build to. And then finally, what is Lewis Hamilton's message to the world? And do you take him seriously? Do you think he's a serious source on this? As it happens, I'm open-minded. I'm genuinely open-minded. But my point here was, you know, he's made these points, but actually, who is he to say them? He's a racing car driver. And it was to encourage students to think critically. I mean, this is critical thinking, isn't it? What's the message here? And I did that with a short Instagram post. I think my advice would be, make sure that you're staging. Firstly, we have to make sure that students will understand the content. So it's important that everybody's clear what the content is. Walid used the story earlier of the boy who cried wolf. We need to be clear, if we're teaching that example, that everybody has actually understood what happened in the story. Because if they haven't, it becomes difficult to infer the meaning. So that's the first thing. I would start with that as some activities just to confirm that everybody has actually understood. The second stage I would look at perhaps is the context and say, so this is what happened in the story. Let's now start thinking, why tell us this story? Why is this story important? And start with that. You might get silence, you might not hear much because the students might still be working this out, but you could say, okay, take the boy who cried wolf. Let's look at the story from the boy's perspective. What was the boy thinking the whole time? Let's look at the story from the wolf's perspective. What was the wolf thinking? What were the other people in the village thinking? And build it up. You can scaffold it that way. And then finally, so what lesson did the boy learn from this? The boy learned that he needed to not cry wolf so often. And then the next stage, so what lesson is there for us as the reader? What lesson for society? What should society learn from this? Taking it beyond this. And I think you can scaffold it that way. Does that make sense? You start with the facts of the story, then look at the context, then think about the position of each character in it. And then, so what does that tell us as a society? Does that answer your question, Ika? I mean, that's how I would do it, but.
Yeah, that's very clear. Thank you so much for the explanation. I appreciate it. Yeah.
No problem at all. Thank you. Thanks for your question. It's a really interesting question, a very important one.
Yeah, thank you, Ika. I agree. It's really important to make sure that the students actually understand what the story is before we actually try to invert the meaning or or try to figure out what the moral in it, yeah? Okay, right. Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Right, so that will be all actually for today. Time flies. It's been 90 minutes actually. Before we leave this meeting, of course, I would like to remind you. I would like to remind you to fill out this feedback form. Yeah, the feedback form. This is also to confirm your attendance. Okay, I'll put it on the chat there. Yeah, so you can click it here, but you can fill it out later, but just please click it here, because if I close this meeting, then the link will disappear, obviously. Okay, all right. And also, I would like to remind you that our next talk will be on May, of course. That will be held every month up to November. Yeah. So that will be, I think that will be around 21st of May. Yeah. So we're looking forward to meet you again in the next talk with a different speaker, different topics, of course, that we hope would still be relevant to your teaching context. Yeah. And once again, I would like to remind you that in Teachers Talk, everyone in the meeting matters, because we are all teachers. We have our own experience, tips, and ideas, and we can exchange it here. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a picture, a group photo before we all leave this meeting. Hold on a second. I'm going to remove the spotlight from Richard. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. Here we are. Okay. Whenever possible, please turn your camera on. That will be lovely to see your face in the picture. Yeah. Thank you very much, Rich from Miftahul. Thank you very much, everyone, teachers, for joining us today. Let's take pictures. There are 2 pages, so let's start. Okay, ready? Okay, whenever possible, please turn on your video. So that will
Not yet. I'm not yet.
Oh, okay, sure. We'll wait. All right. Okay, thank you very much, Rich from Malayan. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I will count, yeah? 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay. The next page, the next slide. Wait a minute. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Okay, again, once again. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Okay. All right. I guess that will be all for today. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you find it useful. I hope we'll learn something new today, and don't forget to join us again next week. And yeah, bye-bye. See you next time. Bye, everyone. Take care. Yes, it is done. Yes.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye. Take care, everyone. Take care. Take care. Yes. You're welcome, Miss Acha. Yes, Miss Fitriadi, you're welcome. My pleasure. I'll see you next month. Okay. Thank you for the inspiring sessions. You're welcome, Tiara. Bye-bye. Can I have Mr. Rich material? I think it's on the chart, right, Rich? Everything that you mentioned. Yes. Everything is in Richard's hat, so it's hard to, unless you can transfer it to us. Oh, okay. See you next month.
Okay, see you. Thanks, Miss Levy.
Pleasure.
And everyone.
Yes, pleasure. See you. That will be in the recording. Yes, Richard was right.
Can we have a online chat in group, in WhatsApp group, Miss? I think we should elaborate Mr. Richard's material. Is it really interesting, actually?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, I do really curious about intensive and extensive explanation, or intensive extensive reading, like that. I wrote down some of the explanation of yours, so I think I need to elaborate more.
Yeah, I mean, are you in the
Miss Levy can facilitate us to have online meeting in WhatsApp group, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I can discuss with Sir Richard. a pretty busy man, so let's see if we can find some time.
I don't